Welcome back to Journal of the Year. Today's a little different because today we're celebrating a milestone 10 episodes. When I first started this podcast, I wasn't sure who would listen. I wasn't sure where this journey would lead. I only knew that I had stories to tell, lessons to share, and a heart that wanted to help others heal. 10 episodes later, we've talked about faith, healing, motherhood, relationships, personal growth, boundaries, and finding ourselves again after life has tried to break us. We've laughed, reflected, cried, grown, and most importantly, we've done it together. This podcast was born from journal pages, life experiences, and a desire to create a space where real conversations could happen. A space where people could feel seen, heard, and reminded that they are not alone. To every person who has listened, watched, shared an episode, left a comment, or supported this journey, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are the reason this podcast continues to grow. And while we're celebrating 10 episodes today, I truly believe we're only getting started. There are more stories to tell, more healing to experience, more growth ahead, and more lives to touch. So let's celebrate this moment together. Thank you for being a part of the Journal to Ear family. Here's to 10 episodes, countless lessons, and many more conversations to come. I'm Rose, and this is Journal to Ear. Let's keep healing, keep growing, and keep becoming together. Welcome back to Journal to Ear. I'm Rose, and if you've ever felt your heart ache because your children grew up and life looks different than you imagined, this episode is for you. Today, we're talking about something that so many parents experience, but very few people talk about the relationship with our adult children. Not the Instagram version, not the family photo version, the real version. The version where you love them deeply, but don't always have access to them. The version where you miss them even when they're alive and well. The version where you wonder if they know how much you love them. And if you're listening today and you've ever asked yourself, why don't they call me more? What did I do wrong? Will we ever be close again? You're not alone. Let's talk about it. Nobody prepares parents for this season. When they're babies, everyone tells you how hard it will be. When they're toddlers, everyone warns you. When they're teenagers, everyone has advice. But nobody tells you about the grief of watching them become adults. Nobody tells you about missing people who are still here. Nobody tells you about sitting in a quiet house remembering little voices that once filled every room. Nobody tells you that one day you'll realize your children don't need you the same way they used to. And that realization can break your heart if you're not prepared for it. Not because you're selfish, not because you're controlling, but because you love them deeply. And love naturally feels the absence of what once was. One thing God has been teaching me is that distance isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's adulthood, sometimes it's responsibilities, sometimes it's careers, sometimes it's marriage, sometimes it's children of their own, sometimes it's simply life. As parents, we can easily make everything personal. They didn't call, they didn't text, they didn't invite me, they seem distant. But what if they're not rejecting us? What if they're simply becoming who they're supposed to become? the same way we once did, the same way we once left home and built our own lives, the same way we once had to figure things out for ourselves. Sometimes we interpret distance as a lack of love when it's actually a season of growth. Can I be honest? I think many parents secretly carry guilt. We replay every mistake, every argument, every moment we wish we could redo. We wonder if we damaged something beyond repair. But here's the truth: you were human then, and you're human now. You made mistakes, but so did your parents, and so will your children, because none of us get through life perfectly. Healing begins when we stop viewing ourselves as villains in our own story. You can acknowledge your mistakes without becoming defined by them. You can apologize without carrying shame forever. You can grow without punishing yourself for who you used to be. This part changed my life. At one point, I realized I was waiting for relationships to heal, waiting for phone calls, waiting for things to be different, waiting for someone else to make me feel whole. And God gently reminded me, Rose, your life isn't on pause. Your purpose doesn't disappear because your children grew up. Your dreams still matter. Your healing still matters. Your calling still matters. For me, that looked like writing a book, creating this podcast, learning who I was outside of motherhood, finding joy again, learning that I could love my children fiercely without losing myself in the process. Instead of asking, why aren't they giving me what I need? I started asking, who am I becoming in this season? That question changed everything because healing isn't just about repairing relationships. Sometimes healing is about rebuilding yourself. Sometimes God uses seasons of distance to introduce you to parts of yourself you've neglected: the dreamer, the creator, the writer, the woman, the person underneath all the roles you've carried. One of the hardest lessons I've learned is that love doesn't always look like closeness. Sometimes love looks like prayer. Sometimes love looks like patience. Sometimes love looks like silence. Sometimes love looks like respecting boundaries. And sometimes love looks like leaving the door open, not forcing, not chasing, not manipulating, not guilt tripping, just leaving the door open, trusting that if reconciliation is meant to happen, God is more than capable of making a way. I want to hear from you. I really do. If you're listening on YouTube, answer this question in the comments. What is something nobody prepared you for about having adult children? Was it the distance, the silence, the worry, the pride of seeing them grow, the grief of being needed less? Let me know. Your story might help another parent feel less alone. In this week's challenge, this week, I want you to do 5 things. Pray for your children without trying to change them. Write a letter you'll never send. Release guilt for one parenting mistake. Do something that brings joy and ask yourself, who am I becoming in this season? If you're a parent struggling with distance from your adult children, I want you to hear this. You're not failing, you're not forgotten, and your story is not over. Keep loving, keep praying, keep growing, keep becoming. Because sometimes the hardest part of parenting isn't raising your children, it's trusting God with them after they're grown. Thank you for spending this time with me. This is Rose, and this has been Journal of the Year. If today's episode touched your heart, please share it with another parent who may need to hear it. Subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, and leave a comment telling me what's something nobody prepared you for about having adult children. Until next Wednesday, keep healing, keep growing, keep trusting. And remember, sometimes the greatest act of love isn't holding on tighter, it's trusting God enough to leave the door open.